What's up, everyone? Welcome back. We are doing the season finale. Not yet, but it's the last season. We have 7 episodes left of Veep. We're going to be doing the after show, breaking down season 7, episode 1. Got all the heavy hitters back. Selina is in full force. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Yeah. Doing my bobblehead dance for the AfterBuzz song. Welcome back, guys. We are at a new season of Veep after a 2-year hiatus.
Yeah.
I'm Amy Maestri, very excited to be joining this panel for the final season. Very excited to have this lovely lady next to me as well.
I'm so excited to do a show with you. We've never done one, but I've watched you. Hey everyone, I'm Mina Wahab, and I love Veep so much. The writing is just, oh my god, I can't. I was like listening with the headphones here in the studio watching, and I was just laughing, and then I'd be like, sorry guys, sorry, because like people are like looking at me like, why is she laughing?
You're like, guys, give me a minute, okay? I'm gonna be laughing for the next 30 minutes.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh man, yeah, super excited to be doing this panel. We are also going to be joined by our girl April next week. She couldn't be here tonight, but she will be on this panel for the rest of the season. So, man, we left with a lot going on last season. Selina's eyeing the presidency again. Jonah's frickin' running for president. Amy's pregnant with Dan's baby. We got a lot to jump off on. Mm-hmm. But then, so what were some of your expectations coming into this season? Because, you know, it's kind of, they've been running the same machine for a while.
Yeah.
So what were kind of some of your expectations or hopes for this season?
I didn't really come into it with any expectation. I think that, like, we kind of talked about this a little bit behind the scenes, but the show is so brilliant, and I think it started out, like, up here, and it kept winning Emmy after Emmy after Emmy for Best Comedy, and how do you top something like that? It's kind of like, I almost feel like when I watched HBO's Girls, like, Girls started all the way up here, and then by the season finale, I was so let down, where I was like, it's good, but it's never gonna match season 1.
Yeah.
So with this, I was, like, laughing, and I loved it, but it was nothing compared to seasons 1, 2, 3, and so on. I think the writing is brilliant. They kind of do the same thing over and over again, which isn't necessarily bad, but it's always like, okay, like, what problematic thing is Selina gonna say in these circumstances when she's campaigning to show, like, how scummy politicians are? Like, what else is gonna be said? Okay, so, like, we're gonna talk about, like, exploiting the black baby. We're gonna talk about, you know, like, the mass shooting and how that's great for all of us. Like, sometimes it's, like, honestly funny, but it really is very repetitive.
Yeah.
And it works, but then sometimes I'm kind of like, I want a little bit more. Like, I want something crazy to happen.
Yeah.
Like, something unexpected.
Yeah, and that's why it'll be interesting to see this season if they kind of stick to that formula, or if they do throw something at us that's a little different.
Right.
I think this first episode back was just such great vintage Veep.
Yeah.
Of the really quick dialogue, like you said, credit to the writing, of just back and forth.
Razor sharp wit.
Exactly, right away. Selina's coming in hot immediately. And actually, we were just talking about this before we went on air, about what this is like compared to real life American politics. And I was reading an article a while ago where staffers at the White House were interviewed and asked about, like, what shows on TV are most like real life in the White House,
Oh
and they were
my
like,
God,
Veep.
Stop.
Veep
Like, I
won.
just, like, imagine, like, Trump being like, oh yeah, this is perfect for us. The Russia investigation, this is perfect. Like, I just imagine him being like, what are my numbers like? And someone being like, 11%. That's wonderful.
Yes.
It's great. That's better than I expected.
And that's why I feel like this season, especially because we are now in the Trump era,
Yeah.
what that does to the writing.
Right.
Because obviously whenever you're doing a show about politics, same as, you know, like a House of Cards or something where it's supposed to be modern day politics, but obviously in this different realm kind of. So it'll be interesting to see kind of if they do pull from anything, or if they just go full steam ahead with their own thing and are like,
I feel like they haven't. Like, I feel like they had multiple opportunities in this episode to address things. For example, the topic of immigration came up, and she was like, we're not doing immigration. That's too much of, like, a ruckus, or, like, it's too controversial. And I was thinking, oh, I thought that they would probably, like, have a stance on it and say something problematic to kind of, like, like wink at Trump or like talk
Yeah.
about the wall or something, or talk about the refugee crisis. I thought that they would do something, and they kind of, the issue came up again with gun control, and I feel like that was a little more fitting because they were talking about like, oh, what would you say to people who, when the press, when the lady from the press was questioning Selina and saying, what would you say to people who think thoughts and prayers aren't enough, and they criticize people who only give their thoughts and prayers, and then she was stumbling upon her words, but then later on at a rally, she came up with this whole perspective, like, prayers really do work, and I believe in Jesus, and this is gonna solve everything, and everyone's like, yes, amen, and I'm just kind of like, it's funny how you can pull certain things and show how, like, the irony of, like, oh, this is gonna resonate with a certain population because you're tapping into, like, the Christian demographic, but people who think this specific way, where they place all their, like, faith in this one thing, that things can be solved through faith versus what are we going to do to systemically change things when it comes to gun control legislation, who can, you know, who can have access to these weapons, and, you know, what standards are in place for this, you know? I feel like they could have done a little bit more, but it was still really, that part was pretty funny.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. They kind of took some bits and pieces in there.
Yeah.
So I think, tonight we're just going to kind of break it down kind of by character grouping almost, because, I mean, obviously the kind of the plot line through this whole episode is everyone leading up to either announcing their candidacy or they already have and they're already on the campaign trail.
Yeah.
So let's save the best for last. Let's talk about our girl Selina a little bit later.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our boy Jonah.
Let's do it.
Yikes.
I was just laughing. I was just like, oh my god, oh, she's my half-sister. I mean, stepsister, but it's fine. Like,
what a great way to bring in the stepdad again, because I thought that was one of the funniest dynamics that he had, because seeing Jonah with his mom, seeing Jonah with any adult really is so telling of him. But yeah, so he has announced his presidency. He is now married to his stepsister. He looks like a hipster farmer douchebag. He went from bow ties last season to the suspenders, and
it's called Silver Lake.
Yeah,
here in California. Yeah,
that's actually where he was campaigning. They weren't in Iowa or not in the Midwest. They're actually in Silver Lake. So I really also appreciate the fact that this season they're bringing back a lot of the old faithfuls. We get to see Patton Oswalt come back, his campaign team. The fact that they brought him back into the fold makes me so excited.
Yeah. I mean, he's great in everything. Like, what I love about him as an actor is that he can do comedy, but he can also do very, very serious.
Yeah.
And, he's been through a lot in his personal life as well. So I feel like he has such a wide range of emotions he can bring to any character. So I'm always excited to watch Patton Oswalt on screen.
Yeah, and I think it plays to your point in this character specifically, of him just being this awful, like, sexual harasser at the office.
Oh my god.
Basically, because he plays it in such a smart, grounded way, and you're just so creeped out by him. But I can't get enough of him in this, so I'm really happy to see him back. What do you think they're kind of leading up to with Jonah? Because it's been so interesting to see his evolution as a character from day one of just this annoying guy who, you know, worked in the president's office and would kind of look down on the Veep's office, to being a congressman, to now running for president. Is he gonna be president someday?
I think it kind of, like, in this way, I feel like it's so relevant to kind of the political ecosystem we have now, especially with Trump winning the presidency. The fact of the matter is that when we think about the Trump administration and we think about before the election, everyone was like, Trump is not going to win, like, there's no way, like, every CNN poll predicted that Hillary Clinton would win, and even before it was just him against Hillary Clinton, when he got the nomination with the Republicans, like, before he got the nomination, everyone was like, there's no way that a reality star is capable of running the country. But then it kind of spoke, like, he knew how to have a message resonate with people in such a way where people say that Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders are total opposites, which obviously in many ways I agree. But when you think about it, they have a core message that is fundamentally the same.
Yeah.
And their core message is draining the swamp, except the way Donald Trump communicates it is, oh, we're going to drain the swamp and get rid of all these, like, scummy politicians. Bernie Sanders communicates it in a way where he's like, we're going to spread the wealth, you know, Washington is doing things the wrong way, and we have to do things in a way where we don't forget about everyone else.
Yeah.
And so they both have the same message. It's just they have different ways of approaching the situation. So I totally understand how someone like Jonah, as unlikable as he is, how this could be kind of like a weird, like, wink to Washington. Like, oh, what if Jonah wins the presidency? No one thought he would. He's at 11%.
Yeah.
But then slowly his ratings keep going up. And you're kind of thinking, like, wow, like, what is the fascination with Jonah? It's like, well, people are fascinated when someone's a train wreck. People are fascinated when someone just speaks their mind and says whatever is on their mind, because politicians are so put together, and Jonah is so the opposite in the way that Trump is when he was running for office. So I wouldn't be surprised if this show decides to make Jonah the winner at the end of all of this.
Yeah, because I mean, he does, to your point about, like, people, like they hear one thing that they like and they go all in.
Yes.
And they did that. They leaned into that last season with Jonah of, like, the daylight savings time crusade that he went on. So, like, even just something like that. He ran this whole campaign based off of one thing where he got everyone riled up, got this huge support base, and then now he's running for president.
But there are a lot of voters like that, where there will be single issue voters, where if someone is, for example, pro-life or pro-choice, if they see that there's one candidate who is like a staunch conservative, like, yes, I am pro-life, then they're going to vote for that candidate because that issue to them, like, goes before any other issue. Like, they
nothing
don't
else
care.
matters.
Like, the economy doesn't matter. Like, foreign policy doesn't matter. It's literally just about abortion for them. So that makes sense why a candidate would resonate with a bunch of people who are only concerned with that one single issue.
Yeah, daylight savings time. That's it.
That's all I
Mic
care
drop.
about.
We're out.
That's it.
Okay, well, let's shift away from Jonah. I'm really intrigued by the Dan and Amy dynamic.
Yeah.
It's always been so much fun to watch. My roommate walked into the room when I was watching this season premiere, and she was like, "Oh, they definitely banged, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah, for sure."
Feel it.
But it's so funny because, like, they've always had that really, like, a hatred tension, but also the sexual tension.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of glad that they let it draw out as long as it did. And finally dropping this bomb in the last season, I think is really good. And I'm also very excited to see what levels they give Amy to play with. Because she is phenomenal. And so I think when they make Amy's character more extreme one way or the other, whether she's, like, extremely stressed out about one thing, or, like, whenever they have her kick into that next gear, like, magic happens.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see this kind of journey that she's going to go on, because in the beginning of this episode, she's saying, like, or originally, it was like he thought she was getting the abortion, and then she's saying, no, maybe not, but you don't have to be involved. But then he knocks on the door and she's all ready to see him, and then she's jealous. So it's like,
yeah,
I'm ready to see her on a roller coaster.
I totally get that. I mean, he's so scummy. Like, the fact that he's like, first of all, every time I watch him, I'm like, he's so hot. But then the scumminess,
then he
just
talks.
Like, then he opens his mouth, and I'm just like, ugh. Like, the writing is so brilliant, where he's just like, you just have, like, this disgust with him when he says, like, oh, like, if you're gonna get the abortion, totally cool with it, just, like, Venmo me and make it public. I want people to know that I paid for half of the abortion. Like, I don't want to see, like, a douchebag. Like, yeah,
we can go Dutch on the abortion.
We can go Dutch on the abortion.
What a great line. Like, that's one of those lines that if that was, like, the first line he ever said as a character, you would just be like, oh, cool. Yeah. Know exactly who this guy
Chivalry is totally freaking dead, man. Like,
I mean, he was gonna go Dutch.
Yeah, I can't.
But yeah, so I'm
for all of it. No, no.
I am excited to see kind of where that goes. And just to touch quickly on Katherine and Marjorie, they've had their baby that Selina is, I'm sure, very excited for, a new political pawn, of course, being the half-black baby of two lesbians who she always points out that Marjorie is partial Native American as well. So little dreamboat for Selina Meyer.
I love speaking on the Native American part, I love when she asks Marjorie, why would you run for president? And she says, oh, I'm Native American. She's like, I got it. got it. She can't do anything with that because she's white. Like, there's nothing, like, she can't play to that diversity or, like, you know, wanting to have representation for her people because that sounds too white powery and it's not going to work for the campaign. But I don't know. I just, the whole using a baby as a pawn and then that theme coming full circle at the end when we see the new presidential candidate pick and he has like the baby in the background, the perfect family. He looks like a JFK figure, very charismatic, really dashing, and she's like, the baby, I knew it. And it's true, like, it's that so stuff true. Works. Like when Joe Biden is out here kissing babies and Obama's like bonding with them and then other candidates have them crying, like it works. It's like magic. It really is.
It's so true. I feel like they're writing it so well too, because not only is it like a great political pawn for her, but it's so hard for her too because like the way that they're raising that baby, that is Selina's nightmare. That is her worst nightmare.
We're not going to say the word no because we don't want to use like any sort of negative. I just can't. Like,
the fact that she's going to have to put up with that for the ultimate reason that she wants the baby for political use is going to be a lot of fun to watch. And my God, watching Marjorie. Just we were talking before earlier about like deadpan delivery. Yeah. My God, she's the queen.
She's good. She's good. I felt okay. To be honest, I felt like it was a little too much this episode, where I didn't laugh as much. You know, like I feel like other characters, like I'm trying to think of like what character does it the best, but. To this day, I feel like Selina has the best deadpan delivery. Like, I don't feel like anyone can do it better than her. Like, just the way she, like, says things and has no regard or, like, no human compassion. And you're just, like, this girl, like, we love her, but she's so, like, ugh. Like,
well, she says everything with such conviction, too.
Yeah, she believes it. That's the part. That's why, like, I can't hate her for it because these are things she actually believes. So it's just like, wow, you're just like ridiculous. Like I can't. Like I'm glad she's not my mom, but I love watching her. Julia Louis-Dreyfus does an exceptional job in this role, and I've loved her since Seinfeld. So it's so nice to see her shine in this for so many seasons.
Yeah, I mean, so deserving. And actually, really quickly, we'll touch on that. The whole reason for the delay of this last season was, of course, right after she won her last Emmy for Veep, announced to everyone that she was, had the breast cancer diagnosis and was going to be undergoing treatment. So awesome that beat cancer, cancer-free right now, healthy from all that we know right now, which is awesome to hear. And for her to come back, and that's why I think that opening scene of her just like ranting and going off and saying, this is why I deserve the presidency to Gary, was just so powerful and so fun because she just was going on like all cylinders, full steam ahead. I'm going to see how many, are those train references? Do I keep doing those? There's a cylinder, steam ahead. I don't know engine parts. Anyways, I think it was a really powerful opening scene for her.
Yeah.
So let's actually jump into Selina. So really at the end of last season, we were waiting, to see if she was fully announcing, but she was saying, she was basically going to. Yeah. And then by the end of this episode, of course, she has.
Well, she said she's not. There's like a period in the episode where she something leaks out where they're like she's not running. Like, oh, like I guess it's time for change in DC or whatever. And I was just like, oh my God! Like I thought the episode was gonna take a totally different turn when I saw that. I thought it was gonna really hurt her campaign.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's and I think the way that they left it last season with kind of doing a lot of the like time jumps and back and forth and getting some more insight on some of how certain things unfolded was a really great setup to come into the season too. And I think it's really important too. I love how she just keeps saying the new Selina. It's the new Selina. And then by the end of the episode, she's like thumbs up to a mass shooting, thumbs up to this because it all works for her. Yeah. And I really loved that moment when they found out that the shooting happened and they all just kind of looked at each other like are we doing this again? Yeah.
And they're like, thank God. Like, I need to send the shooter a thank you note. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, oh my God. Like, that type of dark humor where it's super problematic and, like, messed up, that's what I enjoy the most about this show, is that it is so irreverent, but in a way where it's really poking fun at how this whole Washington machine works.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, wow, like, it's like the lack of regard for human life in a way where what is going to help me win this election, and you're running on the platform of helping human life and representing the people, and yet you're so happy when something happens to people that will elevate you to help the very people that you promised to help. It's just so much hypocrisy. And I, like, even when, like, my favorite line and my favorite snippet in this whole episode was when Selina was like, I want to be president for all Americans. And he goes, really? All, or she says something like, I want to be, I don't remember what it was, but she said, like, really? All Americans? And the guy goes, how about real Americans? And she's like, oh yeah, that's good. And we can figure out what I mean later. And I'm just like, oh my god, like, I can't even, I'm so tongue-tied right now because I get so excited talking about this. And even, like, when she says, if you want me to use my own goddamn words, then write me something to say. And just the irony. The irony is so strong, and I love the writers of this show. Like, you guys are doing a wonderful job.
Yeah, and I mean, also, we're talking about how great so much of the Selina stuff was in this episode. The fact that this cast is such a great ensemble, and I'm really happy that they just put it on blast really in this first episode back to really see the range of everyone, and the writers really being able to keep the pacing going so quickly, still bouncing back and forth between everyone, and never really getting like muddled in between, you know, like it's you're still really clear on everything happening, and they just packed a ton into that first 30 minutes.
Yeah, and I kept thinking, I don't know why I forgot the length of the show and I thought it was an hour. I think it's because they really do put a lot, but then when I finish, I'm like, that's it? I want more. Yeah. But I realize I'm watching a lot, but then I'm like, there has to be more. Like, it's so bingeable that it's so frustrating that you can't just binge it.
I think I was thinking about one of the lines from last season, Jafar. So again, you know, she's officially broken off with Jafar, again, for her own political reasons. Right. But I loved when he had a line last season that was like, I honestly don't know how you get anything done with the team that's around her. And man, this episode really, again, like vintage Veep of just everything that can go wrong, everything that can be screwed up will be screwed up. Yeah. Right down to the last minute of at her announcement for the candidacy, realizing that the tent guy's not going to put up tents because they didn't pay him back in 2008 at her last rally there.
And then he's like, what he goes, like, I'm sick and tired of you hoity-toity, you know, whatever, coming in here with your little attitude. And then she uses that line and reiterates it, and then forgets that she's doing the accent, the harsh Boston accent, and I'm just dead. I'm like, oh, like, I can't. Your performance is amazing, Julia. Like, if you're watching, which you should be, you're amazing. We're voting for you.
Yes, all day. You know what? Just Julia Louis-Dreyfus for president.
For everything.
Everything. And I love, too, the kind of callback of her stealing that line in a speech to get something out of it. The same at Gary's birthday, when she just steamrolled the birthday last season and then stole his story about his dad and the squirrel hunting or whatever to get something out of it politically again. So I like that. Like you said, it's kind of like they do the same thing, but they find ways to still make it funny. So
they do. It is very formulaic, though.
Yeah.
But so is The Bachelor, and we've been watching it for, well, I can speak for myself. I've been watching it for how many seasons now? So sometimes formulaic isn't bad. It's just like the recipe for funny. Yeah. And this show has managed to craft a recipe for funny that works really well. I think I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, you guys are so great and amazing. Just do something a little different. Like, I know we love all of this. Like, just give us, like, something, like, a little bit, like, different. I don't know, like, just to end the season with.
Yeah, and you know, I think there's something about dark comedy that they can get away with that a little bit more.
They can.
Because I think everyone's always just waiting to see how far they'll go.
Yeah.
You know, same with Why It's Always Sunny has been on for like 10,000 years. You know, like it's something that you would think that you can't keep watching a show like that because they're so awful, but it's because they're so awful that you keep watching a show like that.
And you also know that it's just a character. Versus, like, it's not like someone actually saying these things that believes that. It's just very funny, like, sharp writing. Yeah, it is. It's so interesting that they could do that and not offend anyone. But I guess when you're labeled a comedy, you can get away with way more than if you were never a comedy or a comedian you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think something about the pacing for them helps too, because they always keep it very upbeat.
Yeah.
So it feels like it's light. But then when you listen to what they're actually saying, you're like, oh, that's dark as hell.
But the other thing about that, like speaking on the pacing, I feel like because they fit in so much, like you have this moment where you're like, oh, but then you're like moving on to the next so quickly that you don't get to fully process what just happened. You're like, oh my God, that's terrible. But then something else happens and you're distracted and you're like, okay, I'm going.
Yeah.
That you don't fully like sit and bask in the awfulness of what is. You're just on to the next. And it's so indicative of how the campaigning itself works, where it's like, oh, you have like a mishap. You're not going to like stay down the whole time. You're going to keep going. And it's also, I feel like, reminiscent of our news and like how news is broadcast in the US when you watch CNN or you watch something or you watch the local news and it's like, oh, are cupcakes really killing you? And then mass shooting and then this and it's just like boom, 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 boom. You don't have time to care because you're so desensitized because everything is moving so quickly that you don't get to really focus and feel.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's crazy. That's what this is all of this. It's like some weird satire about life in the media and I love it.
That is really true. And when you look at shows like this, whether it's this or House of Cards or, you know, anything that focuses on that political landscape, but the darker side of it, it's one of those things where now where you're just watching something and you're just like, wait, was that something that I watched on Veep, or did Trump say that yesterday?
Right.
and then you laugh, and then you're terrified.
That could literally be our special segment.
There we go.
Trump or Veep?
We're gonna start quizzing you guys on a weekly basis.
But if they watch the episode, they'll already know. That doesn't work.
We'll find a way to do it. We'll find a way to do it. Yeah, we can pull from past episodes. Did Trump or Selina Meyer say it? Yeah, we should toss Jonah into the mix too, actually, because he says some asinine shit.
Jonah, Selina Meyer's, Trump.
All right.
Perfection.
I like it. If you guys have any quotes that you want to submit to us to use, we'll be happy to use those as well. We were talking before the show about how it's just so full of epic one-liners too.
It is.
So I think we'll have to get into that in some future episodes for some special segments. So really, you know, this is kind of leaving us with, right now, in there are hats that are thrown in. We have Selina, we have Jonah, we have Tom Jones, and then we have Bobby Calhoun's throwing his cowboy hat into the ring.
Yeah.
I was kind of intrigued that they just kind of like dropped that in there and then left it.
Yeah, I wonder where that plot line is going to go. Like, I wonder how that's all going to play out. I feel like they have, like, pretty good, like, archetypes of, like, they have the JFK, they have the person everyone knows. Like, I feel like Selina's kind of like a Hillary Clinton, where it's like she's tried, people know her, she's in politics, and, like, she's failed, but she's going to try again. So she has, like, that reputation, and she's in a process of rebranding. And then, like, obviously Jonah is, like, I guess kind of like Trump or like the loose cannon, and everyone is kind of like an archetype for what we see like in front of us.
Yeah.
I like how they did that. And then like you have the cowboy hat that could be like, you know, rest in peace, like a John McCain, or like, you know, someone who's more, I guess, grounded, or I don't know. You know what I mean? Like that perception of like you always have like a little bit of everything in these campaigns, and it's interesting to watch all of this play out on the show and kind of see the stereotypes that they're trying to like push, or the ridiculous quotes and things people say to get elected and the promises you make.
Yeah, that's why I love all the behind the scenes. And I mean, honestly, one of my favorite characters of this show has always been Kent. Because the lines that they give him, like the specific weird things that he knows, and the fact that he's just like an encyclopedia and is always there to support with something quick. The duo of him and Ben is one of my favorite comedic pairings ever. So I think, seeing how they play behind the scenes, how they get away with things. And I also think that it was smart to have that gap of time in between, you know, what should have been the season finale of last year and what's happening now, because it's hard. They already pushed so many limits of like, okay, this is a little crazy. But that's what we love about it, is they keep pushing it further and further, and then they have those characters surrounding them to kind of ground it every once in a while. Yeah. But it's still in a crazy way. They're not actually grounding. They're like still a little above ground.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I was listening to Jordan Peele the other day in an interview, and he was talking about Us and how people were saying, like, oh, you have comedy in there, but you also have drama in there, and, like, the psychological thriller and horror part. And he's like, yeah, but, like, comedy and horror go hand in hand because it's all about grounding something absurd and, like, taking it and grounding it as much as possible. So it's all about absurdity. How do you ground absurdity in the best way possible and take a concept that's so crazy and make it seem like it belongs in reality? And that's what good writing is, especially on this show. It's kind of like, in a weird way, what Jordan Peele does with his social commentary and comedy, and, you know, it's a slightly different genre, but the same process of just grounding things in reality when it's absurd.
That's a really good point. And they should write a master class on that, just from Veep.
Oh yeah.
Between Veep and Jordan Peele.
Oh my god, yes. I would be so into that.
So speaking of, like, the two dueling campaigns, the main ones that we're looking at between Selina and Jonah, I absolutely love that Richard is still just trying to help both of them.
So annoying. I'm just like, get out of here. Like, he's annoying me. I don't know why. I'm just, like, annoyed this episode.
Oh, God. With Richard specifically?
Yeah.
Or do you usually like him?
Going back and forth thing, and I'm just, I don't know. Like, his character was annoying me this episode, but usually, no, I'm not annoyed with him.
There's something about his delivery that I just love him so much. But, yeah, in this one, I think it kind of, I liked it just because I thought it made sense. Like, of course, he would try to, like, still be played, because, I mean, like, I don't think he has a mean bone in his body.
No, not at all.
And so it's just so fun that Selina
innocent.
loves him so much, because normally that would be such a, like, off-putting feature for her.
And she still,
And that's, like, her go-to dude. She loves that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So I think that pretty much covers most of the different character breakdowns, kind of from...
Except I love Gary, because, you know, Tony Hale, like, he's Buster in Arrested Development, and it's just to see, like, how Buster is so similar to Gary. Like, I love that dynamic of him, like, typing everything she says and kind of being an idiot where he, like, takes everything so literally, and it's just, I'm just like, oh my god, like, how many blonde moments in an hour, like, in a 30-minute show. So I really do enjoy his character in that dynamic, even though it is very overplayed.
Yeah, and I feel like in this one we didn't get a ton of Gary, but it's still, those moments where...
It's nice to see him.
Yeah, it's just, like, that mix of, like, so dumb, but then also so in love with Selina that he's just so blinded by everything. And even just those little moments of, like I said, when he's typing,
when I was a pretty girl,
yeah.
No, don't say pretty, just say girl. But you are so pretty. I love it. He's like, why would you want to be president? So I could give it to you. And I'm just like, oh my god, like, stop.
And I thought that was interesting that she was going around and asking everyone that question, which I think is always a good kind of tool to utilize for them to just kind of have really good character moments, of Amy being like, how nuke America.
Yeah.
And then, like, those moments, you know, where you just get to see that little quick, almost like transition in between scenes sometimes, to use that.
I feel like it's a really smart, like, writing ploy in a sense, because you're taking a question and seeing how everyone answers it differently. So not only are you taking up time in the story, but you're also moving the plot forward by seeing, like, oh, this character is like this. How does that relate back to Selina and their relationship? This character is like this. What does that say about Amy and Selina's relationship? And how she responds to everyone's answer says a lot about her. So, like, the way everyone answers how would you be president reflects in how Serena interprets what it means to run for office. And I think that was just a brilliant, very simple, but very brilliant way of moving the plot forward, and also showing how Selina is. Even though we know who she is, it just shows us a little bit more. Yeah.
And I feel like with this show specifically, it's funny, a lot of people, I think, like to rewatch dramas or something with really intricate storylines, like any kind of, like, thrillers or mystery, anything like that, crime shows. Fast-paced comedies, I need to watch an episode 5 times before you're going to catch every joke.
Yeah.
Episodes like this, I feel like Community was the same way. Arrested Development's the same way.
Arrested Development, so many references.
Every time you watch an episode, 30 Rock, every time you watch an episode of one of those shows, you find a new joke or a new level to a new joke.
Gilmore Girls was, like, the most like that I've ever seen, where I'm like, I don't know any of these references. What is happening?
And now even Amy Schumer Palladino's new show with Miss Maisel, Marvelous Miss Maisel, same thing.
They do that too,
And so I think it's really fun. I wish I had gotten a chance to rewatch this one before our show tonight, because I always like watching shows like this twice, because you do pick up on so many more.
Literally saying that, I was like, damn it, like I would have totally watched this back to back. I kind of want to see it again, and I'm like, I know I just saw it, but I still want to see it because I always miss something. And
there we go.
I totally could see this a billion times.
Yeah, definitely. And you always find something new, and then also even just like getting to do this when we come on air and start talking about things, like you'll say things and I'm just like, oh yeah, oh my god, yeah.
It's fun. Like, this doesn't even work. This is fun.
It is. That's true. So, and actually we want to thank you guys for tuning in all the time.
Yes.
Making it possible for us to be able to do this. Make sure you comment, chat us too, let us know what you're thinking. If you have any crazy ass lines that you loved from Jonah or Selina or any one of the crew, let us know. So let's get into some predictions.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And now,
the anticipation.
your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Spooky.
This is hard.
I'm gonna say that just because they did kind of skip over Bobby Calhoun getting into it, I think there's gonna be some Amy and Bobby drama.
Okay.
I think we're gonna see that, especially between the storyline of like her now having Dan's baby. I think there's gonna be something there. And I would think sooner than later, because it was just like kind of dropped in there without saying much else. So I see something with that coming.
I wonder if this is gonna go in a dark direction where she loses the baby or like something horrible happens. Because I know, like, with girls, they brought in the whole, like, oh, she's pregnant and, like, she's gonna keep the baby or whatever, and people are like, why would they introduce that? Like, this is, like, so ridiculous. Yeah. But I feel like Amy having the baby is gonna, if she does choose to have it and it goes successfully and smoothly, it's gonna somehow humanize Dan. So, like, it's gonna show a different side of him. Maybe he's gonna, like, change a little bit, and that's something I really want to see. I want to see more depth than just the stereotypical douchebag that we see, like the very polished politician who's kind of like, you know, a narcissist and not considerate of anyone else's feelings. So I hope, I don't know. I guess I would just, that's what I'm looking forward to the most. And then in terms of Selena, I don't know. Obviously more stuff is going to go wrong.
There's always going to be something going wrong.
Yeah, there's always something.
All right. Well, do we have any news and gossip this week?
Nothing that I know of right now, but
I know I got kind of like sucked down a rabbit hole of looking up stuff about Julia Louis-Dreyfus and just how she's doing now, just after the diagnosis and after undergoing treatment and everything. So I just kind of started watching a bunch of Julia Louis-Dreyfus interviews, and I was like, well, now I ran out of time, but
I mean, I guess I'm like looking at the thing that says, while her character may be fake, the book Selina Meyer, A Woman First, First Woman, is very real and full of nuggets about life, as many of us know it inside the Beltway. And I'm just like, wait, is this like an actual book? Like, what has happened? Because it says that it's authored by executive producers Bill Kimball and David Mandel. And it says, A Woman First Woman is packed with satire. So I guess this is an actual book. It's not just like a book in the show. It's an actual book, because they were saying that the Washingtonian got their hands on the book at a party for Veep's 7th season, and that they were just like talking about it here for a little bit, and I was like, I can't believe there's a whole that really is a book that the producers like put together. Like, I want to read it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
I love that.
That's like the only news I have, the only news and gossip I have. Yeah.
Well, I love it. And so next week we'll have some more news and gossip for everyone, and I think we're gonna have to do this this one-liner battle of who was it? Was it Selena? Was it Jonah? Was it Trump?
Right.
What's going on in American politics versus what's going on in Selina Meyer politics?
Yeah, for sure.
I think we will have to jump on that. Well, girl, I'm very excited for the rest of this season.
I'm so excited. Like, I'm stoked. Like, I just want to laugh more.
Yeah, I think the laughs are coming. I think this was a good a setup episode to kind of bring us back into that world, and like really hard hitting with a lot of the old stuff that we're used to. So I think it's going to kind of go off from here. I think we're going to see it go in a lot of different directions, and it was a great ensemble episode, so I think we'll see some more things featured in episodes to come too.
Yeah, I really think it's just going to get better and better. I think the first episode of any season is always kind of like a you're kind of like cozying in,
Yeah.
and it's like hard to make everything amazing every single time. And then now that things have been established and grounded and we're caught up from the previous season and how it ended, then it's just gonna like be like new topics being introduced and like more chaos. So
Exactly.
it'll be phenomenal.
Excellent. Well, in the meantime, until next week, where can we find you on social media?
Hey everyone, I love talking politics, not just comedy, and also movies, and you can find all my stuff on Instagram at Mina Makes Magic, so follow me there. I'm your host, Mina.
Nice. And I'm Amy Maestri. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Amy Maestri. And similar, I love talking politics. I also do the SNL after show here, so it kind of always goes back and forth between comedy and politics and that too. But really excited for this season, guys. We will see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.